And welcome to another Good Morning Thailand, middle of the week. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you again for all your comments. We'll get to some of those a little bit later in the program. But first, we'd like to welcome our studio guest today. We've got Abel from Find Your Voice Asia.
Thanks for having me again, Tim.
And of course, we've got Bill down the end there from C9 Hotel Works.
Hi, Bill. Actually, your shirt's woken me up. It's
Yeah.
stark daylight.
I'm not going to be outdone in the shirt department.
Good morning, Thailand.
Yes, more comments about the shirts coming, I'm sure. I think it matches the painting pretty well. So one bit of good news that came in last night, interested to hear your comments because a lot of people in Thailand have had the vaccination from Sinovac, which is manufactured in China. And up until yesterday, the Sinovac vaccine had not been approved for emergency use by the WHO, but now it has. Now, Abel, you have been vaccinated with Sinovac.
Yes, I have.
You perhaps wouldn't have been able to travel to other countries unless the WHO did approve it. So it gives you a bit of extra reassurance?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because initially, the reason I wanted to get vaccinated is because of the opportunity to travel abroad. Because I am already a very healthy person, and I was thinking, should I get it or should I not? I'm not quite sure. But now that I heard of this WHO approval, I actually feel definitely a lot better that I have gotten 2 shots of the Sinovac. So it's very, very good news.
Yeah. I think it's interesting also with Sinovac in terms of this vaccine passport. Certainly from a travel perspective, having Sinovac approved is going to allow Thais to travel, or foreigners who have been also immunized abroad as well. But it's also interesting to see how we're going to see that broader adoption of vaccine passports too, because what documentation you're going to need. In the States, they're just giving you kind of a different document about the vaccine. So what are you going to have in terms of identification to travel abroad as well?
Well, I can tell you I have 2 stickers in the back of my ID card. So, vaccine 1 done, vaccine 2 done. And then I also got 2 sheets of paper that is like authenticated with stamps and stuff like that. And I need to actually bring those 2 small pieces of paper from the place where I was vaccinated and go to Suvarnabhumi or to an airport and get that passport.
Okay,
and
great.
then I would be able to travel without having to go through a long process.
I'm also thinking that as far as Thailand's concerned, with this WHO stamp of approval for emergency use, it may encourage more Thais to go, okay, well, any fears I had have now been allayed. Maybe it'll help with the general rollout and people turning up to be vaccinated. What do you think, Bill?
I mean, that said, also in Phuket, as we're aware, the past few days there's been an announcement there's an excess of Sinovac right now, and the leftovers, they're inviting foreigners actually now to participate in the vaccination
We've got
drive
a few
as well.
vials left, so you guys can come along now.
So it is interesting how that curve of the vaccinations are going, because the further we're getting into it, there is a fear factor still out there, certainly. But any confidence in the vaccine and this kind of documentation makes a lot of sense. Because I know we were talking earlier about how, in terms of Sinovac, what's the efficacy rate and everything else. There's so much information about there. What is the correct information, Tim?
Time now for our headlines. We've got Bill Heinecke coming up from the Minor Group, our online guest. But let's check out what's happening around Thailand today. So it's a yes. The World Health Organization approves Sinovac for emergency use. Phuket foreigners can register for vaccine leftovers. There are 324 schools now open in Lampang, northern Thailand. A body's been found in the water off Patong, Phuket, and Malaysia now in the second day of their imposed lockdown. And we check all the headlines from Thailand every day. You can catch all the latest news, of course, at thetiger.com. Now to our next guest, Bill Heinecke. Now, Bill is the head of the Minor Group. It's a food, hospitality and lifestyle company across 63 countries, headquartered in Bangkok. It was founded in 1967 by Bill. At the time, it was an office cleaning company. Obviously, it's moved a bit from there. They now own 520 hotels across 55 countries, including some of the brands Anantara, Radisson, JW Marriott and Four Seasons, plenty of others that you would know. They also operate lots of mixed-use businesses, including shopping plazas, entertainment, residential properties. His company also owns lots of lifestyle brands, clothing brands, including some 420 shops. In the food department, you may know some of these brands: Pizza Company, Svensson's Coffee Club, Burger King and Bonchon Chicken. Bill Heinecke, all the way from Bangkok. Thank you for joining us, Bill.
Happy to be here.
First, just with your letter that you wrote to the Prime Minister, one of 3 letters you've written to him about this particular situation, I was just immediately interested as to why you started the letter or addressed it, Your Excellency.
I think because it was a sign of respect for the Prime Minister.
Okay, I would have thought it would have just been Mr. Prime Minister well, he's not actually elected, but anyway. I just found that interesting. I thought that would be reserved for foreign diplomats.
No, I maybe because I'm not cognizant of some of the diplomatic protocol.
Okay.
Hi, Bill. How's the reaction been to your letter so far? I know we've seen it in the media. We've seen a lot of feedback. Have you heard back from the government about it?
No, the government has a way of trying to let us know what they feel about the letter. I think it was well received. I know it's been read. We're waiting for further feedback, but I think the fact that we see the process continuing, that letter was partly prompted because we were very concerned that the July 1st Sandbox date may get pushed back in view of the number of new cases in Bangkok.
Bill, you've actually, as I mentioned, written 3 letters to the Prime Minister. The first one was basically saying that you thought the country should lock down early in the situation April last year. Then later last year, you wrote a letter to the Prime Minister saying it's time to open up again. And this letter, of course, reiterates that with all the latest conditions. So you sort of yourself moved about the way that you think the country should cope with the situation.
I think it's a pretty dynamic situation, and I think we've been watching the rest of the world, and I think we have to move the way they've been moving. We're very present in Europe, so we have a chance to see what's been happening there. And frankly, they have taken a course of opening up, as has the United States. And I think other markets like the Middle East and Maldives have also opened up. You're not going to find, you can't do that if you maintain a policy of 0 cases. I think that what the government is beginning to appreciate, as well as many countries in the world, is that this is an endemic, not just a pandemic. It's an endemic, which means we're going to have to live with it. You don't get rid of hepatitis. We haven't gotten rid of yellow fever. So that means we have to learn to live with this virus.
So your thought is that Thailand should manage its way out of this situation rather than trying to worry about containing it anymore?
I think they still have to worry about trying to contain it, but the point is they've got to try and do it, open up safely. And I think that we've seen with a vaccination and a negative test on arrival, this is not where the cases that we have in Thailand are coming from. The cases that we have in Thailand have come from domestic transmissions, from refugees, camps, prisons, you name it. But we handled through our ASQ, we've handled thousands and thousands of guests. Many of them are vaccinated. We've never had anyone who was positive that was vaccinated that came into Thailand for his quarantine. The rollback of the quarantine to 14 days has not helped the country, and it hasn't made it, in my opinion, any safer.
So, Bill, I have a question for you, actually. Obviously, you are in many, many businesses, and hotel is one of them. And, us living here in Thailand, we see the downturn of a lot of the, the struggles that we have. From your experience and from your understanding of how the government is dealing with the situation or trying to handle the situation, how do you foresee and when do you kind of maybe expect a normalcy in a way for the hotel industry in Thailand?
It's going to be a slow recovery. I don't expect very much in the third quarter, except hopefully a slow reopening of Phuket. I wish it could be quicker, but we're so dependent on airlines and so many other things. Frankly, I push very hard for a vaccination bubble. I don't believe in travel bubbles, as I've said before. We can't get Hong Kong and Singapore, which are two very low risk countries, to even be able to get a bubble going. But what I do maintain is that we should, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have reciprocal arrangements with safe countries where if visitors come that are vaccinated and test negative here, we should be allowed to go to their country if we've been vaccinated and test negative there. So in effect, you're opening up safely, not trying to open up for people that haven't been necessarily vaccinated, or trying to open a travel bubble between two safe destinations, but really trying to ensure that visitors are safe in reciprocal ways.
How concerned are we always say you can't stay there if you can't get there. How concerned are you about airlift? How the general state of the aviation industry, certainly here in Thailand, but also within the region, internationally as well? That's everything, for tourism. How important do you think that's to kick back quickly?
Absolutely, it's critical. I've talked with many of our friends in the airline industry, and a lot of it depends on also people being confident enough to get on the planes and come. And so if we're not fully supportive of this, then we're not going to see the airlines get back up to speed quickly.
Bill, we've published the letter that you wrote to the Prime Minister last week down under this video so people can read it. But I was wondering if you've had much response to that letter.
We've had, a quite considerable response from the public. We've seen generally positive feedback. Unfortunately, when you write letters, as I do, on behalf of our company and our teammates, the problem that we run into is the fact that many people dragged up the fact that I was pushing for the Prayut government to be recognized 8 years ago or 7 years ago when they came to power. But that was critical to our thing. It wasn't an endorsement of the government. It was more a point of view that we need to recognize whatever government is heading Thailand that has needs the support of the consumers and the public. So unfortunately, I'm constantly being reminded of things that I wrote many years ago. But nonetheless, I think the message has received favorable response.
How are you getting your head around, certainly for hotels now? If we would have been sitting a year ago, we're saying the Chinese will be back, regional tourism will come back first. Now, as we see what's happening in Malaysia, what we're seeing in India as well, these big markets for Thailand could be stunted. And now we're back to long haul. How are you trying to do your business planning process, or what markets do you expect to come back to Thailand first? Who are those first travelers going to be back?
I think without a doubt they'll be from Europe, because they will not have the reciprocal quarantine. In other words, people from Hong Kong, as long as they face quarantine after visiting Thailand, are going to have a hard decision to make to come here for 2 weeks and then return and go into quarantine. So we need also the support of the other countries, the nearby ASEAN and Asian countries, to support this. And they haven't begun the process yet. So most of the countries do not allow a return without quarantine, even if you're vaccinated.
And Bill, I have another question. I was talking to some friends who are in the real estate sector, and most of them were saying that the higher end real estates are doing okay and doing better. But what do you think about all the many smaller 3 or 4 star hotels and all the condominiums that are building? How do you think those will recover in real estate or hotel businesses, et cetera, et cetera?
I don't think we can expect very much until next year, 22. Bear in mind that China, it looks like China, Australia, and New Zealand, although they've got the virus pretty much under control, won't be reopening and letting tourists out or allowing people in.
Bill, just finally, you mentioned publicly in the last week that you thought the vaccine rollout in Thailand has been a disaster. In what way do you think the government has had some missteps?
I think what they failed to realize is that what we need is more vaccines, not more lockdowns. And the fact that we were very dependent on just AstraZeneca and Sinovac, I think, kept the whole ability to roll out quickly behind. Today, I think there's a general recognition that we have to have as many vaccines as possible, as quickly as possible. So I think the vaccine policy is changing. Unfortunately, when they cut the red tape in Thailand, they tend to cut it lengthwise. So we have twice as much red tape as we've had previously.
Bill, just looking over your left shoulder, I just noticed in the background, is that a brontosaurus wood carving up on the shelf?
No, it's an elephant.
That's an elephant? Oh, I see. It's got a very long trunk. I was just trying to...
I was thinking that too. It
was a bit distracting. Bill Heinecke, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time, and good luck with getting your hotels and all your other businesses open over the next months and years. It is going to be a bit of a slow grind, but we appreciate your time today.
Yep, we'll see you in the Sandbox, Bill.
All right, see you in the Sandbox. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Bill Heinecke. The Thaiger's getting behind businesses for the restart of tourism in July. With 60,000 daily YouTube viewers and around 500,000 overseas viewers every month, let us help you get in contact with the next wave of inbound travellers. 50% discounts on offer on packages right through June. Details in the description under this video. And you're back on Good Morning Thailand. Abel, interested to know about what happened in your family when you all sat down one day. You've got 2 kids. And how did the vaccination discussion go? How did you guys come to decide to get vaccinated?
Well, my husband and I were very serious, and we were sitting at the dining table and having a, discussion. No, I'm just joking. We were just chatting away, and he was like, "Okay, I'm going to make an appointment for us because this is very important." To my husband, it was very important to get vaccinated because he wanted to feel safe. And me opposing him in a way, like, I'm okay, I actually don't need vaccination. But he did win, and I just thought, okay, it doesn't hurt for me to get vaccinated. And actually, it wasn't really, it was pretty much more like him convincing me that I need to go with him because he already made an appointment.
What about the social element of that as well? I mean, in terms of those around you, you've got kids, you have other family members around. How much does that play in, being conscious, actually having that vaccination to try to protect others?
I do think it's important for me to get vaccinated if I travel abroad. I was very conscientious about where I travel to, where I go to. I usually don't go to places with a lot of people anyways. So I know that I would be very, very careful, to stay far away from people and not to get, potentially attract this kind of COVID disease, but not a disease, excuse me. But it is a disease.
Actually, don't worry because Tim's shirt protects him against COVID-19 already, so that's okay.
There is a responsibility if you do travel abroad, but I am also very careful when I'm here. But people always say that they're careful anyway, so it's something that I feel it's a responsibility. If I have the chance to get vaccinated, I think, why not?
Thaiger Raw's time, and let's go to some of the comments from some of our members. Firstly, Scott D said, transitioning from enjoying Thailand's world-class nightlife on holidays to living long-term as an expat can be difficult for some. Specifically, I'm referring to drinking alcohol and possible addiction. I'm curious if there's a problem with addiction amongst a high percentage of the expat community. I wouldn't have thought so, Bill. What do you think?
I think COVID-19, you could have gone 2 ways. You could have fallen off a cliff somewhere and started day drinking and everything else. We've seen examples of that, honestly speaking. We've seen people who got healthy as well. It's going to go one of 2 ways. It's going to be ugly or it's going to go good for you. But we have seen, certainly there is, I think from a mental health issue, as we talked about yesterday, there is an issue with that. And if you were already drinking a lot, we have seen people drinking more, certainly at home, because it's depression. What's driving drinking? It's not just the love of alcohol. It's other issues in your life as well.
I think generally, even before COVID, there are a number of temptations here in Thailand, and people can be lured to those temptations. And there are some locations around Thailand that perhaps cater for those temptations, and you can fall into a bad lifestyle if you choose. But I know a lot of very, very healthy and happy and busy, challenged expats, and the people who do fall into those bad habits, they're there, and they sort of fall through the cracks to a degree, but I don't think they're a high percentage of the expat community.
I think arguably, if you go to a country like the Philippines, you see the birth rate increasing dramatically from COVID-19. We've not seen that here. What about the divorce rate as well? Certainly with people who have been in COVID-19, we've seen marriages break up as well. So, again, COVID-19 has been an accelerator of many things which were going to happen anyway as well. And certainly, I think mental health still is a key issue of this crisis.
Definitely.
Bill, what have you got there on the Bill's mailbag?
Oh, the mailbag. We got from Stefan, who's a super fan as well. Every once in a while, a show without COVID would be great, What about electric cars?
My husband drives an electric car.
What sort of car is it?
It's an MG.
An MG, it's what, a hybrid, or is it full electric?
Full electric.
Yeah.
And so you have to charge it up every night?
Every night.
Plug it into the wall?
Plug it into the wall. We got it installed in our house, and we have an extra, what do you call those, electrical boxes also, because it does suck a lot of electricity. So we have 2 electric boxes at our house. One is for the car and one's for our house.
I mean, here in Thailand, we're seeing if I go to Central Department Store, if I go to the Intercontinental Hotel, here as well, we're seeing EV charging points.
Yes.
There was an announcement last week here in Thailand with Foxconn, which is a Taiwanese company, together with PTT in terms of assembling cars, EV cars in Thailand as well. So it is a wave of the future. And I think with the EEC initiative in Thailand, we're going to see more cars being done this way, certainly without doubt.
Abel, any idea what the cost is to recharge the car each month? Have you sort of evaluated the additional costs of... I know you pay the bills in your household, so you'd be aware of it.
No, I don't. I pay for my other bills, Would
it be, what, 1,000 or 2,000 baht in addition?
I believe, if I remembered correctly, he did mention that the electricity bill is only like 1,000 or so more, because he only drives around in Phuket. It's not like he's driving, in really, really far places. Compared to the gas money that he was putting into his Toyota Fortuner before, which was like 4,000 or something like that. So he definitely say at least minimum 2,000 a month.
And start using solar, because start using solar, even more savings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
The question I would ask, though, is where does the power come to power the car? The power comes from hydro or from coal. I mean, there's no real benefit to the environment from driving around in an electric car, apart from maybe feeling good and saying to your friends, I drive an electric car.
Though arguably, Tim, you're able to power solar power as well. Here in Phuket as well, you're able to get permission from the electric authority to install solar as well. So
you can drive along with a solar panel strapped to your roof.
No, you'll be charging with solar power.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long does that
That
last?
doesn't work very well at night time, though, when you want to charge your car.
If you have a battery as well, that's what it's there for.
What else you got in your mailbag?
We got a note in from Jeff Winter. May I suggest that you get rid of the plant? It's very distracting. Jay's plant. What's happening with Jay's plant? Jay.
Oh, come on.
We need a little green in our life. That's all we can say.
Yes, we need more. Well, this is very, very bright. Yeah, it's some green. Maybe we should all start wearing some more green, no?
Exactly.
We've added the plant. Well, we'll be adding little nicks and knacks. We've sort of got the cups. So we will be adding, we've added Abel today. So we do like adding things.
All you need is love and a dog.
Be very careful what you say about the plant if you are going to comment, because Jay is very sensitive about the plant. So
What do you like the plant? Bill? We have one more note in from Richard O'Hagan. Why are you giving a platform to anti-vax crackpots at a time like this, referring to yesterday's discussion? Richard, I'm not sure that you actually listened yesterday, because the whole discussion platform was vicarious. The whole discussion was somebody who wants to discuss. They didn't say yes, they didn't say no. I think that's really important for a platform like this, is we don't have all the answers. This is a point of discussing different people's views, and really important that we're able to discuss, not just say yes or no.
And be assured, when we've been talking about getting vaccinated in the past on the Thaiger, we get equally an amount of people saying, how dare you push vaccines? So we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. We just try and provide some conversation pieces and some different points of view from ordinary people like us. I've got one more from Peter Hearn, another member. Peter says, so all this gets approved. He's speaking about the Phuket Sandbox, which is the sort of start of reopening Thailand. And I fly in on the 15th of July and go straight home to my home in Kamala. I then need a test on day 5. Yes, you do. Any idea of costs? You do have to pay those costs yourself. And I understand, Abel and Bill, that he can't go straight to his home in Kamala. He has to stay at an approved SHA hotel.
Correct. The SHA Plus program is widespread throughout Phuket. It not only includes hotels, it includes restaurant establishments, shops, and everything else. It's there for safety, and there's a point to it. But as it's written right now, in terms of the Sandbox model, you would be required to stay in an SHA hotel. So yeah, you could stay in a hotel and still visit your house. You can go outside, you can see other people, but there is a procedure in terms of the environment you would be in, and you would get a test after 5 days, though we don't know what that test would be. I think something else we were talking about the Sandbox was, what is the cost now? We have the direct flights coming through to Phuket. We were looking at Thai Airways, who's flying from Copenhagen and Denmark. Right now, when we're looking at airfares in July, it's about 27,000 baht round trip, which doesn't sound too bad.
It sounds literally much like it was before.
Sure.
Okay. That's all going to be very interesting to see how those airfares pan out. If you don't have another SHA hotel to stay at, you can stay with Able, who is registered as an SHA hotel. So you can all go and stay with Able.
No comments.
Good answer.
One key milestone for the Sandbox this week is the Thai cabinet will be getting together on Friday and be also vetting through the Sandbox model as well. So we're expecting more news on Friday. We're getting more guidelines in terms of the Sandbox. So this is a very instrumental week in terms of how the process is going ahead.
And we'll certainly do our very best to try and package it in a nice, neat little box for you with all the answers in one place.
I'll be watching.
Great. Bill Barnett from C9 Hotel Works, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
And Abel from Find Your Voice Asia. Thank you, Abel.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Be kind to plants.
And a big thank you to Jay over there pushing the buttons. And thank you to you. We look forward to your comments. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time on The Thaiger.